to run this first Skype in the Classroom webinar on how to kickstart your year with Skype in the Classroom. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and I have a little presentation that I'm excited to share with you. As I mentioned, I'm a Skype master teacher. I'm a 5th grade teacher in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I love using Skype in my classroom to kind of revolutionize my classroom, so to speak. It really makes a huge difference in the way I teach, and I love it. I'm going to tell you why I use Skype in the classroom. There's a lot of reasons. One of them is it's just engaging. The kids are engaged. They're doing real learning, and they're connecting with others around the world. It's great to break down the 4 walls of your classroom. Just looking at that picture, you can see just how engaged these kids are. They were participating in a Skype collaboration, and I'll be talking about some Skype collaborations that you can participate in this year right away, actually. Another huge reason why I use Skype in the classroom is that it teaches tolerance. Right now, there's a lot of hate in the world. There have been recent events in my country, in Charlottesville, Virginia. There have been a lot of events like that, and a lot of people can be upset. Using Skype in the classroom, you can actually do something about it, and you can take action and have your kids learn by connecting with people who are different from them, finding out that people are people no matter what, doesn't matter, and then you're doing something to kind of help with that. There are actually some empathy lessons that you'll be able to register for if you're interested in. Here my students connected with a 5th grade class in Nigeria. We had done a mystery Skype with them, but they had to cancel the mystery Skype because they didn't have any maps. And so we ended up doing a game called Mystery Calling Code, which is a math game. And we played it together, and after the call, they had to hang up right away. But we found out they canceled because they didn't have any maps. They had no maps at all in their building whatsoever. And my kids were devastated, and we ended up writing grants and we were able to ship them 3 maps. And here's a Skype with our class after they received their maps that we had sent to them. So just an amazing way for the kids to Skype with people who are different from them, and that's one of the reasons why I use Skype in the classroom. It also inspires action. So one of the Skype lessons that I'll be talking about later was the Beagle Freedom Project. My students learned from Lorna, there's Lorna right there, and her Beagle Bell, about animal testing and some of the horrors involved in animal testing. And some of these 4 girls were so horrified by this that they ended up doing a presentation, and they invited a state senator, Senator John Ruckelshaus from Indiana, and he came, and my girls presented based on the information that they received from that Skype lesson. They in fact Skyped with Lorna the day before just to practice their presentation, and they presented to Senator Ruckelshaus about the need to change a law in our state, the state of Indiana. And Senator Ruckelshaus listened, and he's going forward to try to pass this legislation in this year's legislative session. And all of that came from a Skype lesson, which is amazing. It inspires action. Skype lessons, Skype in the classroom is also wonderful because it's relevant. So one tip that I'm going to be talking about is, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Kahoot. You can share your screen with other classes via Skype and play a common Kahoot game together over Skype. And so here my students were playing a math game with multiple classes across the country. Also, there are so many virtual field trips, and I'll be talking about those as well, that are connected to your curriculum. Here, my student was Skyping with someone from the Buffalo Bill Center in Wyoming, and we were learning about Native Americans at the time and how they would often use every part of an animal. And here we learned about how this was the spleen of a buffalo used for a water bottle, and that's pretty neat. So it's relevant to what the kids are learning. So let's talk about what you need to get started with Skype in the classroom. It's pretty simple, and the best thing is it's all free. So you need Skype. The free version is totally fine of Skype. You need a camera so that you can connect with other classes and other experts. You need an account with Microsoft Educator Community. That's also free to register. And we think the best experience is with a projector, so the kids can look at the screen on the projector. But even if you don't have an overhead projector, you can gather the kids on the floor and they can look at the computer. I'm going to talk about some tips that I think are some tried and true tips that I use and that I recommend you might want to use to kickstart your year with Skype in the classroom. So there's a lot of things. First, one thing that I like to do is have my students compile a Skype notebook, and you can do this digitally with some of the Microsoft tools like OneNote, but I just do an actual notebook, and my students have a roll call, which is like a table of contents, and we track all the miles that we've traveled, and we take notes in our notebook, and so it's a great way to kind of reflect and look back on where we've traveled, what we've learned in our travels. We can do the math and add up all the miles, and I often will have the kids write some sort of a reflection on what they've learned, so I could take a writing grade every once in a while. So that's one of my suggestions. Another thing that I really enjoy doing is at the beginning of the year finding out their dream destinations. So I have a couple green screens. And at the beginning of the year at the ice cream social, I have some of my former students help me run the green screen station. And I ask my kids about their dream destinations. We take green screen photos of the students at that dream destination. So this young man wants to go to Venice and she wants to go to Costa Rica. And my goal then is, if possible, to try to connect my class with those dream destinations. We've already made it to Los Angeles, which was 2 of my students' dream destinations. And it's just fun to see where they want to go and try to take them there. And of course, the green screen is always fun for that. Another thing that I highly recommend is to do some practice. Practice with your kids before you do your first official mystery Skype or Skype field trip. Because sometimes there are some bugs, and you want to find out what the problems are before you're actually live with your first true Skype experience. So what I always do is I Skype with my parents, and we do a mystery Skype, and I'll tell you about mystery Skype later. That's one of my favorite things to do via Skype. And we play a game called Mystery Skype, and my parents, even though my kids know that they're from Pennsylvania, my parents pretend to be from, this time pretended to be from New Mexico. So we could practice our jobs, because in Mystery Skype everyone has a job, and I'll talk about that later. But it's a really good idea to do a practice. Also, it's good for the kids to kind of hear about Skype etiquette. So even if it's a virtual field trip, you want your kids to know that it's important to sit up straight and look at the camera or at the projector. And I'll tell the speakers that my kids might be looking at the projector, but it might look like they're not looking in your eyes, but they're looking at the projector. So it's important to have them sitting up straight so it looks like they're engaged, so the presenters feel really, really good about that. Also, in things like Mystery Skype, which is a game, I'll be talking about that, it's really important that you teach them ahead of time the etiquette of being either a good loser or a good winner, because it's a game and there's a winner and a loser. And so you don't want to rub it in if you win. You don't want to be a sore loser if you lose, because it's not etiquette. And one of my students over here, she came up with this quote. She said, "When we are mystery Skyping, we're already winning." So I thought that was pretty wise. And again, the tip of sharing your screen. So in Skype, if you press the plus button and you share your screen, then you can all of a sudden pull up a Kahoot, and anyone who you're Skyping with at that moment can play that same Kahoot with you. So that's a neat little tip that you might want to try, even with the class right down the hall from you or in another country. So a lot of options. So I mentioned virtual field trips. And after I'm done with this slideshow, I'm going to actually pull up my web browser and walk you through how to register for a virtual field trip, and I'll even highlight some of my favorites. There are so many virtual field trips, and what's pretty neat about Skype in the classroom is every day it appears that new virtual field trips show up. So there's always new field trips. You always want to check back. But 2 of my favorites, one of my all-time favorites is a Skype with my friend Idan, who lives on a kibbutz in the northwest corner of Israel. And living on a kibbutz is like nothing else. There's no other community like that in the world. And he walks you through his kibbutz, which is beautiful. It's right on the Mediterranean Sea. And what's unique about Israel is it doesn't have neighbors that are necessarily at peace with Israel. And so he walks you through and explains about their missiles have been fired over the border, but it's just an amazing experience to learn about life in a kibbutz, and he's great with the kids. So if you're interested in learning about different cultures and unique experiences, that might be a fantastic virtual field trip, because he takes you you can't afford to fly your whole class to Israel, but you can virtually visit his kibbutz, and that's a fantastic experience. One of my other all-time favorite virtual field trips is pretty neat. It's going to a penguin colony in Antarctica, and we Skype with a scientist named Jean Pennycook in Antarctica. And she actually is able to flip her camera around, and you can see the penguins, which is so neat. Last year, my students Skyped with all 7 continents before winter break, and of course, Jean's penguin colony Skype in Antarctica. That was the way we got to Antarctica, of course. The 4th graders at my school actually read from their reading Beagle about a scientist in Antarctica, so I invited the whole 4th grade to come and participate. Like I mentioned, when I'm done, I'm going to show you how to register, but down here you see the links. That's the web link to get to register for both of those virtual field trips. Skype in the Classroom also offers Skype Lessons. So a virtual field trip is a Skype experience where you travel, basically, to that location, a neat location, maybe a museum. A Skype lesson is just basically speaking with an expert. And so I have two of my favorites. Actually, I'm going to be talking about 3 of my favorites. One of them is called Girl Rising. And that's really neat for, I'd say, upper elementary, middle school, even high school. It's where we learn from experts about the 62 million girls around the world who are not educated. And the kids, boys and girls, just get fired up and they want to do something about it. They learn so much. So that's a lesson that I would highly encourage anyone who has older students. It's Girl Rising. Another one that's really neat, and with the hour of code coming, it's Techno Camps. It's a gentleman named Stuart Powell who teaches computer science in Wales, and he has a lesson, and it's very interactive. When he teaches loops, the kids are getting out of their seat, they're jumping up and down, and it's really a neat way to teach computer science. And it's, again, a great launching point for the hour of code. So that's another Skype lesson that I highly encourage you to sign up for. It's free as well, which is so great. And, again, one of my all-time favorites, which I mentioned before, is Skyping with the Beagle Freedom Project, Lorna and her Beagle Belle. Belle is a rescue beagle who was tested on in laboratories. And this is an amazing lesson. All kids love animals, and they're amazed by what happens in our country and in our world. And a lot of your students will become animal advocates, and there's a lot of writing and reading connections that the kids can do after the lesson to make a difference to help the beagles. So this is another one of my favorite Skype lessons. A new feature that Skype in the Classroom offers is called Skype Collaborations. And so we talked about field trips and lessons. That's with an expert or an expert at a museum. A Skype collaboration, this is a class-to-class collaboration. So there are tons of things you could sign up for to join some sort of collaboration with another class or with many other classes. Some of my ones that I'm highlighting is a Skype Selfie Safari. That's by a Skype Master teacher, Lanny Watkins, where if you're interested in learning about a possible pet for your classroom, or you want to share about your pet, it's a good way to kind of share and learn about different class pets. And another one that's really, really wonderful is another Skype Master teacher, Amy Rosenstein. She does sustainable development goals with the UN, and it's a way you can collaborate with another class around the world to work to help with those endeavors, which is pretty great. And I just posted a global collaboration that I'm really excited about. So I am very involved with the Imagination Foundation, and they run the Global Cardboard Challenge. I'm actually a creativity consultant for them. So what I propose is that if you're interested in doing the Global Cardboard Challenge, that you could register on this Skype collaboration, and I will match you with another class somewhere in the world who's also doing the Global Cardboard Challenge. And you can share ideas about what the kids are going to be building out of cardboard. And then before your cardboard event, you'll Skype with that partner class again, and each class can share what they've created. So that will be a fantastic collaboration, and I hope some of you will register for that and join me in that Skype collaboration. Earlier I mentioned Mystery Skype. It's my absolute favorite thing to do on Skype, and I like to do a lot of things on Skype. Mystery Skype is a 20-question style guessing game where 2 classes try to find each other using yes or no questions only. and it's a game. Whichever class finds the other class first wins. It's fantastic. Every child has a job, and there's so many different jobs. Different people do it differently. On the Skype and the Microsoft Educator community, there are a lot of resources that you can learn about Mystery Skype. And when I first started it, I told my students, guys, I really want to do this, but I'm confident it's going to be a disaster, because classroom management at that time, I was worried that it was not going to go well. But I said, we're going to keep doing it until we get it right, because it just looked so amazing. I showed them a video of a class doing it, and it just was so amazing. I needed to try this, and I was worried that it wouldn't go well. Well, our first one was not a disaster at all. We didn't win, and that was okay, but it wasn't a disaster. Well, we kept doing it. My students gave me feedback, different jobs that I should try. And by the end of the school year, my class was asked to teach a professional development lesson for teachers in New York and a professional development for teachers in Florida on how to Mystery Skype. So the kids got really good at it. It's great problem solving, great thinking, amazing geography skills. Kids ask the best questions to try to find the other class first. And Mystery Skype often serves as a jumping off point for a relationship with another class. So maybe you hit it off really well with a class when you Mystery Skype, and then you try a collaboration with them a month later. It's really allows classes to become basically friends with each other, and makes the learning a lot more engaging and meaningful. Skype in the classroom, I hope I've relayed to you just how magical it is to me. I think it's just one of the most amazing things. The sky is the limit for the games you can create and play and do, and the places you can take your kids to. It breaks down the four walls of your classroom, and I just can't recommend it enough. And this year, when you do use Skype in the classroom, we encourage you on Twitter to share some of your adventures. Include the handle @Skype Classroom, so we can all see and inspire each other on your adventures. After this, I'm going to show you again my web browser and show you how to register. But when I'm done with everything, or now, at any time really, if you have any questions for me or for any other Skype Master teachers, please ask away on Twitter. This is the hashtag #AskInSMT, and we'll respond. We're going to be doing that until 5 o'clock today. And of course, that's my handle @Auslander. Follow me. I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd love to hear how you plan to use Skype in the classroom, and I would love to answer any of your questions now or later about Skype in the classroom. So I'm going to pull up my web browser now. I mentioned this is the Microsoft Educator community. It's free to create an account. And one thing that you'll notice when you go here is in Skype in the classroom it says 5 exciting ways to bring the world into your classroom. Virtual field trips, Skype lessons, Skype collaborations, Mystery Skype. I kind of touched on some of those, a lot of those during my presentation. So I'm not going to load different pages because it's kind of slow to load on this when I'm sharing my screen with so many of you. So I'm just going to go to the different tabs. So this is the Virtual Field Trips tab. And here there are just, as I mentioned, tons and tons of virtual field trips that you could explore. And I highly encourage you today to kind of look through and see what's there, what's available, what ties into your curriculum already. You'll notice a filter button here. You can filter by different curriculums and age groups and all the different types of ways to filter it. And this, again, is the one that I mentioned before, the penguin breeding colony, which is just wild. You'll notice it's got a heart next to it. When you click on the heart icon, it kind of adds that page to your favorites, which is easy to track later. So this is the Visit Penguin breeding colony. And there's lots of information, lots of great information for you. That's the things you would need to be prepared for. And then on the bottom, the purple button says register for this virtual field trip. There are 2 different ways you can register for a virtual field trip. One of them is, and Gene Pennycook is an example of this, where you click on the button, and then a box pops up saying request a session with Gene Pennycook. And then you would type the answers to the questions that she wants to know about. Send her a message, and she'll get back to you within a couple days, 3 or 4 days maybe, and she'll suggest a time that you guys could Skype together. So that's one way, is to click on the register, send a message, answer all of the speaker's questions, and be patient because it might take a couple days, but they'll get back to you, and register, and you can schedule a virtual field trip. That's one way. This is a virtual field trip about Turtle Hospital, which is pretty neat. My students did that last year. You can learn about rescuing turtles in Florida. Scroll down. And another option for registering for a virtual field trip, you click the purple rectangle. And the other option is the calendar. So you'll notice if you scroll to September, she doesn't have a whole lot of openings. But now I'm in October, and there's some days in October, towards the end of October, that are available for a field trip with Turtle Hospital. So let's say I wanted to do the 27th. I would click on that. And on the right, I would see all the times that I could register for. So I pick a time, and always it's a good idea to add a message. And just because I picked the time doesn't necessarily mean that it's been confirmed. The speaker, the presenter, will have to, on their end, they'll have to confirm the lesson. But then you would get an email saying that the speaker confirmed your reservation, and you'd be all ready to go. You have to, of course, add that person as a contact for your Skype call, but it's just that easy, and it's free. Excited to see your questions on Twitter on hashtag Ask an Expert, and I am just really excited and hope to hear from you all soon. Don't forget to tell us about your adventures with Skype in the classroom. Thank you. Bye-bye.